Never want to miss one of my videos? Then make bloody sure you click the notification bell. Yeah. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Top Hat Gaming Man here to produce one of the most requested videos I have ever had on this channel. It's finally time for me to produce a games room tour. Yeah. And when I say games room tour, I suppose it's more of a games house tour, as I'm not really a games collector, you see. I'm more of a games room collector, as just game collecting is a little bit lowbrow, isn't it? So I collect whole rooms instead. So here we go. Thought I'd start off today by showing you what I like to call my Golden Age room, or my Atari Age room, something like that. Got lovely wooden walls in here. I've got the top of a Star Wars trilogy arcade cabinet, one of those machines that used vector graphics, which I've played on the channel before. Space case, it's like a 1970s Star Wars figure container. I just think they like help set the place of the room, if you know what I mean. Set the theme, I suppose would be the term. Here, needs some repairs, but I've got a main unit, bar top main unit. It has on its side like 6,000 games, so I can get my fair share of arcade games on top of my whole collection. Got a nice wooden television here. Classic baseball, sent by Brian Trester again. Atari 2600. I know people get wound up when I call that Atari VTS, and I heard some people like referring to it as the 2600. However, I prefer the name 2600. It rolls off the tongue better, I feel. Yes, moving across, I have another television here. I do love my old monitors. Got a nice MB Microvision in here, which is the first handheld gaming device, predating that of the original Game Boy. I've in fact uploaded the most in-depth video that's ever been produced on this piece of hardware. So if you want to learn about the Microvision, then I suggest you search Microvision on YouTube and then watch my video I produced on it. It's rather informative. Down here I've got some boxed Atari 2600 games. I have Coleco Alien Attack, which is one of those old style, I suppose you call them handheld, you know what I'm talking about. I've got Frogger, the board game, and a pile of Star Wars comics from the early 80s, which I thought was just a nice touch to the room. That, and ridiculously huge pile of Atari VCS games. I'm not going to go through them because there's bloody loads of them. My Microvision games in box. And moving along to here, I've got a ColecoVision, an Intellivision, Astronics, which are German games consoles. I've got the Binatone Pong unit here, and I've got an Atari Junior down there at the bottom. So, this is my Golden Age room, which I hope to be producing games videos on about the early parts of console gaming. Now I am in my brand new microcomputing room. Right here I have an Amstrad CPC 464, which was in fact my first ever gaming platform. I loved growing up with the good old CPC, and to be honest, it's still perhaps one of my favourite systems of all time. So maybe nostalgia does play a factor into favouritism sometimes down the lines. So yes, Amstrad CPC 464 and the original Amstrad monitor as well, what it operated with. Moving along, this is just an old television I bought, and at the moment I've got a Commodore 16 here. Although I am shortly looking to buy what I believe to be called the bread bin model of the Commodore 64, the one that basically looks like a Commodore 16, so I'm going to buy one of those and I'm going to set that up here instead. Obviously you've got a Commodore tape deck here as well, which is cool. Moving along, on this screen I have the ZX Spectrum Plus 2, which was the Spectrum model released by Alan Sugar. around the same time I believe they released that Amstrad. So it's the same as an original Spectrum, which I have here, except for the fact that it has proper keys and it also has a tape deck as well. So you don't need an external tape deck like this in order to play it. Across here as well, it's just a Dell monitor, and I'm going to buy a connector soon so I can use on it my Atari ST and my Amiga 500 as well. And up here too I have a load of random games. There's Electron games up there, there is Amstrad games, Spectrum games. It's a mismatch of lots of different stuff. Down here as well, don't know if you can see this though, I have a Commodore printer, I have an Amstrad GX4000, the Amstrad games console, which unfortunately doesn't work like the majority of GX4000s left in existence. And I have an Acorn Electron as well, which was sent to me by a nice man and patron known as Lee Harris. So thank you for that Acorn Electron, Lee. I shall be reviewing it on this channel shortly. So on these shelves I have some microcomputing stuff. For example, got a nice box here for the ZX Spectrum. And here, I don't know if you're familiar with this one, this is a boxed ZX81. If you've never heard of a ZX81, basically it is the prequel system to the ZX Spectrum, which was also known as the ZX82, because that was released in 1982 and this was released in 1981. There was also a ZX80 before that, but that's a little bit pricier and more expensive, so I've not acquired one of those yet. Let's try to put this back. This fell on the floor earlier. I've also got the bloody recreated Spectrum, which cost me about £20 from Game, I believe, which is the UK equivalent of GameStop for those overseas viewers. So yes, you can't just get NES minis there and SNES minis. You've also got Spectrum minis essentially, which is rather cool, I must say. Amiga 500 I showed you earlier. I've got an Amiga 500 box here, and all of these big boxes are mostly Amiga 500 games. I've got quite a few. Some favourites: Monkey Island, Zool, Fire and Ice, Putty, Powermonger, all sorts. Moving up here, I've got the Welsh microcomputer, well, one of the Welsh microcomputers, this one known as the Dragon 32. Sadly, I've not got this one set up at the moment because I still need to purchase a wider array of games. Moving over to here, there's some mishmash of like Spectrum and Commodore 64 big box games. Elite's there, like everyone's familiar with Elite, that's a major microcomputer game. The ZX Spectrum Plus, which was like a remodeled ZX Spectrum, and down here we've got the ZX Spectrum Plus 2, which is what I've got set up at the moment, the Alan Sugar model, which is lovely, I must say. I mentioned earlier Lee Harris, who sent me that Acorn Electron, which I intend to play soon. Here he has sent me this beautiful selection of box games. Like, the condition of these things is bloody amazing. Look at this. A little bit like, I suppose, in television games where they open up like that. I love them, I have to say, beautiful, beautiful games. He's also sent me a copy of Electron User as well, which is, this one's actually celebrating a royal wedding. A royal wedding back in 1986, the year I was born actually. Okay, moving down, nice little selection of Commodore 64 games I got here. Quite like this big box copy of R-Type, I must say. Moving down, as I said, I'm pretty Amstrad CPC 464 obsessed when it comes to microcomputers. So my Amstrad section is far bigger than any other. Got between about 200, 300 games. But to be fair, that has cost me pennies. Not paid much more than about 20 pence per game overall, I would say. So for those people who are watching from other countries, that's probably about 30 American cents per game. Less than that, I'd say 25 American cents per game. So this is what's amazing about the microcomputers. You've got far less idiots involved pushing up the prices of everything. So if you want to get into microcomputer collecting, you can buy games for absolute pennies. You've not got the array of people ruining it on YouTube, etc., like what you have with Nintendo and Sega and all that. So if you want to get into Amstrad, it's still very much doable. And 1,400 games on that platform as well, so there's a wide selection of games to get. Down here, it's got quite a large selection of Spectrum games too. Not as big as my Amstrad set, but still got a lot of decent Spectrum games there as well. Horace Goes Skiing and all sorts. So I think that just about covers this like section of shelving here. So let's move on again. Okay, so I'll start off here. What exactly do I keep here? Well, on top, I grabbed one down because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 up there. I've got big box Wii U games, complete with amiibo figures. We've got up there Twilight Princess, Amiibo Festival, Splatoon, Yoshi's Woolly World, Super Smash Bros. Wii U, Mario Kart 8, Wind Waker, and Mario Maker. Okay, but much more interesting than that, here I have a plethora of boxed Super Nintendo games. Yes, which of these are perhaps my favourite? We've got Plock here, nice complete box copy of Plock. Terranigma, along with you've got Soul Blazer and Illusion of Time. There's a ridiculous amount here. Basically, if you name a good Super Nintendo game, in all likelihood I've got it. Secret of Mana, Secret of Evermore. I'll show you this one, because this one is my most expensive game I own. Megaman X3 for the Super Nintendo, PAL copy. A PAL copy at the moment goes for around £1,000 on eBay, so a ludicrously expensive game to own. Why did I feel the need to spend so much on a bloody old game? I suppose because this is a game I've wanted since I was 10 years old, and I could never ever find it anywhere at bloody retail. So I just fantasised about owning this game for bloody years and years and years, and one day I decided to cough up and actually buy it. Although it didn't quite cost £1,000, obviously, because paying £1,000 for a game would be bloody stupid, I suppose. So yes, wise investment, although I'd probably predict they'd be worth nothing in another 20 years from now, but who knows? What else is interesting here? I say I've got Mega Man X3, there's also box copies up here, PAL, of Mega Man X, Mega Man X2 and Mega Man 7 as well. I'm not going to get out every single game and show you because that would be bloody boring, so I'll talk about what I see as the highlights amongst all of this. So yes, lots of lovely Super Nintendo games. Street Fighter Alpha 2, Link to the Past, Castlevania 4, Castlevania Vampire's Kiss, all sorts. Okay, down here as well, showed this on the channel lots of times. I've got a complete box copy of Earthbound. I actually paid for this one out of the money I made for wrestling for TNA, that American promotion, when I was on their British Boot Camp Season 2. So out of the wages they paid me, I bought this bloody game, yes. So yeah, big box games. Also Lufia. I believe that the big box Lufia is exclusive to Europe. They didn't get one in the United States. Also big box Super Metroid and Mario Paint. Right, this is going to bloody take all day to go through, isn't it? Stupid idea, really. Okay, cut. Okay, on this side, I keep my Sega Megadrive games, as you can probably see. I don't know how much you can see in shot right now, but you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shelves of Megadrive games here. So a bloody lot of them. Got right here a Sega Nomad, which I picked up from, I believe, I got it in the United States, but I'm trying to remember which state. Philadelphia. I got this in Philadelphia, and here's the actual Nomad unit itself. And also Sega Game Gear as well. Obviously not the same Game Gear I threw in the lake at Central Park, which was also on my channel. So Mega Drive games, what have I got here? What's bloody interesting? Obviously most of them, but in particular, what's jumping out at me? What's that over there? Look at that. Castlevania the New Generations, probably my favourite Castlevania game in existence, and definitely my favourite Mega Drive game. Got all the Sonic games up here as well, Super Street Fighter 2, there's just so many to go through. How do people do these bloody game room tour videos? Like, I'm not going to name every single game, am I? Like, that'd be stupid. Do people actually do that? Like, I've never actually managed to sit through one of these stupid game room videos. Like, I don't even know why you're requesting this at home, to be fair. Like why? Are you nosy, or? It's difficult to make this interesting. What else is here? Mega Bomberman, that's good. The Cap Attack, I like the Cap Attack. Oh yes, here's a little US flag if you're wondering why this is here. It's because when I went to the United States, I actually discovered that I had American cousins who I never knew even existed. And they even showed me pictures of my great-grandparents, who, again, I never met as they died before I was born. I'd never seen photos of them. Like, how mental is that, going over to Novus Mundus, the New World, and seeing photographs of your great-grandparents? Bloody ludicrous. Anyway, one of my cousins gave me this US flag as a keepsake, so God bless something. I am now on the lower half of these two units. As I pointed out earlier, I have more Megadrive games here, but here, and here I have Nintendo 64 games. I would like to think that I have acquired pretty much all of the good Nintendo 64 games. I believe the only one I've not got, which I'm still looking for, is Mario Party 3, if you would even consider that good in the first place. The Nintendo 64 library, very small, very pathetic, but there is a few gems to gain for it. So, like, for example, amongst all of this, games which are quite sought after, I have acquired, got complete in-box copies of Conker's Bad Fur Day, Paper Mario, Banjo-Tooie, Majora's Mask, Pokemon Stadium 2, etc. Like I said, I've pretty much got all the Nintendo 64 games I want, bar Mario Party 3. So, what else have I got here? I'll show you these quickly. These are fairly interesting. First of all, Pokemon Stadium. Pokemon Stadium 2 and 3 were released around the world, like in North America and Europe, as Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2. What a lie! This original Pokemon Stadium game remained exclusive to Japan. When I was in Thailand earlier this year, I actually managed to acquire this copy of the game. So I now have complete in box all 3 of the Pokemon Stadium games, not 2 like some people would have you believe. Another cool game I own is Bangai-O. That's probably not the right pronunciation, but it's like a Japanese 2D space shootery sort of game. Not quite a space shooter, as it's a little bit niche, a little bit different. Quite difficult to explain, but there was only actually 10,000 copies ever made of this game, and this is a complete in-box copy. So when people tell you games like Conker's Bad Fur Day are actually rare, that's a complete lie. Even the Xbox version of Conker's Bad Fur Day was made in smaller quantities than that of the Nintendo 64. Bangai-O, on the other hand, is a genuinely rare... That's a really annoying thing to add to my voice. Bangai-O, on the other hand, is a really genuinely rare Nintendo 64 game. So I would advise you to add it to your collection quick before too many arseholes realise it exists. Okay, let's put this back up here. Moving down another level. What's happening to my voice? This is really annoying me. Moving down another level, we have multiple boxed NES games. Not my favourite console to collect for, but there's a few gems amongst it, I suppose. I've got the 6 Megaman games all within here. Just to let you know, I have Megaman 1 to 4, all PAL A European copies. Mega Man 5, however, is a PAL B European copy because Mega Man 5 was not released within the PAL A region of Europe, and Mega Man 6 is a North American Ntsc copy because it was not released in PAL A or PAL B regions. So as you can see, the further we went into the NES history, the more companies gave up releasing games for it in Europe. So what else have we got here? It's all standard stuff. NES is pretty boring, isn't it? Castlevania, Castlevania 2, the bloody Mario games, Metroid, Kid Icarus. So yeah, we won't talk about NES anymore. Let's move on. This side I've got more boxed NES games, a few Mega Drive games that have kind of spilled down, a couple of boxed Lynx games actually, which I was sent from Brian Trester in the United States, from I believe Iowa, which was a rather desolate place I got to visit on my travels. So yes, a Shido and tennis sent in from, well, Jimmy Connor's tennis, factory sealed, sent in from Brian Trester. So what else have I got here? Lots of nice Intellivision boxed games, as you can see. I really like the Intellivision, and again, I had to actually import most of these from the United States because the Intellivision, like the NES, was a system that sold absolutely terribly in Europe. The Intellivision done actually far worse than the NES, as you would expect. But yes, in Europe with competition such as the microcomputers and even the Atari VCS itself, the Intellivision didn't stand a chance of existing. However, it's a nice little flat platform. I really like Burger Time in particular. That's a very fat game. Okay, moving on. Here I have my PS1 Collection, or PlayStation as it used to be referred to as. Amongst all of this, I've got quite a decent little PS1 collection, I suppose. Again, I really like Megaman, so I've got Megaman X3, X4, X5 and X6 all amongst this. Again, Megaman 8 as well. I like my JRPGs too, so Final Fantasy, all of them actually, well not 3, but Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 4, no that's wrong, Final Fantasy 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got all of them amongst this PlayStation 1 collection. Castlevania Chronicles as well, Tombi, Wild Arms, these are just cool games I'm spotting and telling you there. Earthworm Jim 2, Rayman, Metal Gear Solid, yes, all sorts of nice PlayStation 1 games. X-Men vs Street Fighter. Although this section here is rather interesting for myself because again, this is all my Power European games. Above here I have bought myself a few Ntsc North American PlayStation games on my travels because basically targeting games that were never released in Europe. So amongst this I've got Silver Star Luna, Silver Star Complete, which is again a PlayStation game in a cardboard box. Sorry, let's try and get this bloody back in. Chrono Cross, Factory Seal, because I've still not got around to playing that, but when I do I will open it. Beyond the Beyond, Legend of Dragoon, that was released in Europe but I got it in America because it was much cheaper. Vagrant Story, again I bought that because it was cheaper. Breath of Fire, again, Breath of Fire 3 I should say, cheaper. RPG Maker, only released in North America. Wild Arms 2, again not released in Europe. Castlevania Symphony of the Night, much cheaper to go for an NTSC copy. Final Fantasy Tactics, Xenogears. So yes, that's PlayStation 1 games. Moving up, I'm starting to build up a nice PlayStation Portable collection because I think that is a rather underrated console at the moment. So looking up there at some of the more notable games I like. Again, I've got Breath of Fire 3 for the console. Ultimate Ghosts and Goblins, which is the ultimate Ghosts and Goblins games. Loco Roco 1 and 2. What bloody else is up there? Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max. Got a Sega Megadrive collection there. What else? I'm trying to have a look. My favourite, probably my favourite PlayStation Portable game, Crisis Core, Final Fantasy 7 as well. It absolutely outstands me that we've never seen a port of that to an actual console, because surely that's a game people would be crying out for, to be able to play that on a system. Like a nice little HD remake on the PS4 wouldn't hurt anyone, would it? So speaking of PS4, a few PS4 games I've got up there. What have I got? Final Fantasy 15, The Last Guardian, Far Cry 4, Mega Man Legacy Collection, Grand Theft Auto 5, Undertale, Mighty Number 9, Tales of Zestiria, The Last of Us, Gianna Sisters. I'm not going to go through all of them again because we will be here all day. Moving over to here, again, lots of Wii games. Basically, every single good Wii game that's ever released is amongst this collection. There's literally none missing. If you can think of an obscure Wii game which is good, which you may think I am missing, then let me know in the comment section and I can add it. But as far as I'm aware, all the good games are here. And pretty much the same can be said for my Wii U collection as well. I have basically all the good Wii U games except for the ones you can get on other platforms. I've not got myself a physical copy of Shovel Knight yet, for example, and I still need a Wii U copy of Breath of the Wild, which isn't that good to begin with, to be fair, but I would like a nice set of so-called decent Wii U games. Only just started on the Wii U, the Switch, no point buying loads of games for it yet, because what's the point in paying full retail prices when you can just pay like a quarter of the price if you wait a year? Buying new games is bloody moronic, isn't it? So yes, Breath of the Wild, Puyo Puyo Tetris, Fire Emblem Warriors and Mario Odyssey. A couple of games to just tide me over so I can try and keep up to date with things, but overall I'm not one to waste all my money on modern games. So, last section, Gamecube games. I've got the majority of the good Gamecube games. Again, there's no point me talking through all of them because you're probably familiar with them. So again, I might as well talk about the ones I need. Like, I've not got Chibi Robo yet. Baton Katos, is that how it's pronounced? I need that one as well. And trying to think if I need any others. And no, I don't think so. Like, all the good Gamecube games are there. Look at that. a nice big box copy of Zelda Four Swords Adventures for the GameCube, and 2 bloody Pokemon 2DS's. Right, I'm not going to waste a great deal of time talking about ultra modern systems like the PlayStation 2, original Xbox and Xbox 360, but I'll just give you a brief overview. Let's see, what cool games have I got here? Wild Arms 3, Suikoden 4 and 5, R-Type Final. Oh, there's too many to look through, isn't there? But to be fair, a lot of these are going to be good because I try to get games I want rather than just buying as many as possible. What's down here? Dark Cloud, that's quite good as well. I'm just mainly saying JRPGs, aren't I? What a weeb. But up here, don't know if you can see it on the screen, but I've also got some Ntsc PlayStation 2 games which I bought on my travels again, and most of those are again exclusive to the not exclusive to the United States, just were not released in Europe, so I bought American copies instead. But yeah, you've got Megaman Anniversary Collection, Dawn of Mana, Megaman Next Collection, RPG Maker 3, Unlimited Saga, RPG Maker 2, Xenosaga 1, 2 and 3, Persona 4, got Persona 4 an American copy because it's much cheaper than the European copy, and Heavenly Guardian, again I got it because NTSC copy is cheaper. Moving over to here, quite a few original Xbox games. I suppose the standout ones I own would be Panzer Dragoon Alta, Shenmue 2, what else is there? Street Fighter Anniversary Collection, what else is decent? Morrowind. So yeah, not that much of an interesting system, the original Xbox, is it? Not in my opinion, anyway. Xbox 360, oh god, don't even know where to start. A lot of good games to be fair, but again, what do I mention? Tales of Vesperia? Don't even know where to start. Catherine. I'm just naming all the really anime looking games. Don't know why they're drawing my eye in particular. Big box Final Fantasy 13 and 13 2, more bloody JRPGs. But yes, there's a really large amount of Xbox 360 games here, and again, the majority of them are good because, as I stated, try not to go for the bad ones. Moving on. Okay, moving on again. Above up here, I have a lot of Dreamcast games. Most of the major ones, both the Sonic Adventure games, both the Shenmue games, Skies of Arcadia, Jet Set Radio, Choo Choo Rocket, Mr. Driller, and many other good Dreamcast games. If you are unfamiliar with European Dreamcast games, they actually look like this, which is completely different to how they look in the rest of the world. You've got these big blue jewel cases, which look quite fetching, in my opinion. Over here as well, I've got a Japanese copy of Seaman, because again, this game was never released in Europe. So I got this in my travels in Thailand. Again, I do love a bit of cardboard. So, up here, I have my loose Nintendo 64 games, which I've not acquired boxes for yet, such as Super Smash Bros. And here I have Bomberman 64 2. Again, this is a Japanese copy which I bought because there was never a European copy released, and because the American copy is too expensive to ever bother buying. Here as well, loose NTSC North American Super Nintendo games. Moving across, I have a selection of Famicom games as well from the Japanese Famicom. For those who aren't that in the know, that's obviously the Japanese version of the NES. Across here, again, this is a mixture of loose Super Nintendo games and loose Super Famicom games. There's bloody loads of them here, and it's actually a nightmare getting them off the shelf. So again, it'd be nice to get them in boxes at some point down the line. Again, loose NES games. A complete mismatch again of PAL copies of PAL A region, PAL B region and North American NTSC games, because there was only 200 games released in PAL regions whilst North America received 800. So I've been importing American NES games when I can in order to build up my selection of good NES games. And lastly, within this frame anyway, my lovely, beautiful Sega Saturn collection. I love a bit of Sega Saturn. So yes, what do we got here? Ooh, Pan's Dragoon Saga. You got to love Pan's Dragoon Saga. Oh, it's so nice. Shining Force 3. Knights as well. So many lovely Sega Saturn games. Saturn Bomberman, Pan's Dragoon Zwei. Yes, they're all here. Even bloody Darius Gaiden and Street Fighter 2, the movie, the game for the Sega Saturn. How delightful. Okay, so now I suppose we will move on to the handhelds a little bit. Something I've missed out so far is up here, out of shot. I'm not even going to bother going over it. I've got a load of PlayStation 3 games, but let's be honest, PlayStation 3 is a little bit lowbrow at the moment. Who wants to hear about PlayStation 3 games moving into 2018? I certainly don't. They're not relevant. So let's look at stuff that is relevant. A nice selection of boxed handheld games here. Some cool ones I have is I've got a nice complete copy of Jack Bros here for the Virtual Boy. Hyper Fighting, which is probably the rarest and most expensive handheld game I own, which is the Virtual Boy version of Street Fighter. I've got a box copy of Virtual Boy Wario Land as well. Quite a few boxed Virtual Boy games actually. Amongst all of this, I have every handheld Zelda game complete in boxed. Quite a few of the original Pokemon games. When I say the original, the ones that came between the original Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance. There's quite a few of those amongst here. All the Mario Advance games, Golden Sun, quite a few. But as I said, I've not got time to go through everything. Up here, don't know if you can see it, I have a nice selection of PlayStation Vita games. Like I've talked about the Sega Saturn being underrated on this channel quite a bit recently, I feel the Vita fits into the handheld bracket that way. Like that's probably the most underrated handheld system of all time. There are so many good PlayStation Vita games, and they're continuing to be released as well, which makes it even more ridiculous. But just to name a few good ones, because they're in my collection, so they probably are good. I've got here Undertale, Jak and Daxter Trilogy, Uncharted, Rayman Origins, Borderlands 2, Touch My Katamari, Steins Gate, Grand Kingdom, Wipeout 2048, Lost Dimensions, Persona 4, Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy X-2, New Leaf King Story, God of War Collection, Odin Sphere, Gravity Rush, Trigger Happy Havoc, and Tales of Hearts R. And yes, that's just a few Vita games. I want a lot more up there. Amongst this I have here as well, Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy Color, another Game Boy Color, another Game Boy Pocket, and some Game Boy Advances in a variety of colours. So down here, as you can see, I have lots of lovely 3DS games. 3DS, what a wonderful system that is. So yeah, lots of cool 3DS games. What can I highlight to you what you possibly haven't played, which I have, which is decent. Really like the Yokai Watch games. If you're an adult and you've not played them, play the Yokai Watch games. Very, very strong JRPGs. Also, Cave Story 3D, that's quite a nice 3DS game you may not have played. But again, mostly the generic, because it's a very system with a very big, good library of games. The Fire Emblem games as well. They've been fantastic recently on that system. DS across here, I've recently just produced a video talking about some of my favourite Nintendo DS games, so I would advise you to watch that to hear about some of those which are my favourite amongst my collection. Anything else that stands out? Let me have a quick check. That's quite cool. I got this. This was a Club Nintendo exclusive, if you've heard of it, but I've never actually got around to opening it, because I suppose this one's actually more of a collector's piece, because you wouldn't actually want to play it. But a Game & Watch collection for the DS. Again, you could only purchase this with club points you gained by buying lots of games. So you got the club points, and then you could get this for free from Club Nintendo. So I have a copy of Game & Watch collection. So let's move on. So this is my coffee table, which, as you can see, I certainly don't use for drinking coffee. Just keep a few gaming bits and pieces on it. I've got an Intellivision Flashback. Again, was never released in Europe, but I have managed to procure one nonetheless. Atari Flashback 3, in case I fancy playing Atari in here. A boxed Megadrive 2, and a ridiculously big box of Game Gear games. I've actually got over 100 Game Gear games in here, and soon I aim to purchase one of those Retron 5s along with the Game Gear add-ons. So at some point soon I will be able to play these hundreds of games on my television. Won't that be amazing? Game Gear, very underrated library, very terrible handheld, I suppose. Speaking of handhelds, I've got the Virtual Boy here as well. Another thing I bought on my trip to the United States, because like many things in my collection, the Virtual Boy was never released in Europe. So I had to go to the other side of the world in order to experience the horrors of this little growl. Here I have my Master System collection. A very underrated system across the other side of the pond, but an extremely well-liked, celebrated system here in the United Kingdom. And I believe the Brazilians enjoy it even more than we did, yes. So, quite a few cool games here. One I would pick out in particular is I have a copy of the Golden Axe Warrior, a rare Zelda clone for the system. I say rare, probably expensive. It's probably the more accurate word. Here as well I have an Atari VCS complete in box, and a factory sealed copy of E.T. the Extraterrestrial, which I bought when I was in Florida because I found it amusing, considering it was really cheap. So I thought that's an amusing item to own. Novelty. Wonder Swan. Oh, I can't even bloody grab it. Atari Lynx. Neo Geo Pocket Color. A pile of Neo Geo Pocket Color games donated again by Brian Trester, who I mentioned earlier. A pile of Supervision games and a massive pile of Philips CDI games in that corner. Some of the better CDI games I've got there, I've got Burn Cycle, Seventh Guest, Tetris. What else is decent there? Mad Dog McCree. So yes, Lemmings, Megaman, I like that as well. Quite a few good Philips CDI games there. Still haven't got the Zelda games yet because I refuse to pay more than £1 for a Philips CDI game, considering most Philips CDI games are only worth £1. I'm not suddenly going to pay more for one just because it's got the word Zelda in the name. That would be rather pathetic, wouldn't it? Very little to talk about with these shelves really. Got a few cans of drink with computer game characters on the front. Boxed in television game. This came in Brian Trester's box from Iowa. He sent me a Coca-Cola for some reason. It's got Iowa 150th celebration of our state wrote on the back of it, so some special commemorative Coca-Cola. Mario Kart Wii, the Sony Xperia Play. That's a system you don't hear that much about anymore. The PlayStation phone. Some more bloody amiibo thingy, the Wii U. Undertale Special Edition. I've got the PS Vita version and the PlayStation 4 version, both here. Majora's Mask Club Nintendo Lite, Fire Emblem Warriors Limited Edition, Animal Crossing, Megadrive, and yes, that was nice and quick. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today on my Game House tour. So, after having a look around and having been really nosy and looking at lots of little odds and sods that I own, which of these things would you like to see me cover in depth on this channel? Let me know in the comments section, because 2018 is just around the corner, so there's plenty of time to look at all sorts of nonsense. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, cheerio!